$630 million in earnings, the highest grossing football movie and sports drama of all time domestically. 9 awards from 16 nominations and 3 of them for Best Actress. And it was all based on a lie? Allegedly. The movie about a poor kid from the inner city of Memphis who gets adopted by a rich white family and goes on to a starring career in college football and the NFL has one critical error. An error that has led Michael Oher to sue the Touhys in probate court in Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, this is kind of his Britney Spears moment. It's shocking and it's bizarre and it's sad for so many reasons, and we're about to break those reasons down together. You, my dear viewer, and me, America's attorney. And let me just start off this video by saying one thing. If you remember Oher wrecking fools in the NFL, well, settle in, because he's probably gonna be doing the exact same thing to the Touhys in this lawsuit. According to the lawsuit filed by Mr. Oher on August 14th, not only was he not adopted, but he was tricked into signing himself into a conservatorship. And if you're feeling a little bit confused about what a conservatorship is and what exactly that entails, well, imagine what an 18-year-old foster child from inner city Memphis was thinking when he signed these papers. A conservatorship is an unusual legal device that allows an adult to be financially in charge of another adult. I mean, you can have a conservatorship for a child, but honestly, that's usually just going to be called a guardianship. A conservatorship is very similar to a guardianship in most jurisdictions, which means that the rules that govern them are going to either overlap or they're literally going to be the same rules from the same law books. Now, let's put this into a context that most people will know. That's right. I'm talking about the whole Free Britney internet rage a few years back. Britney Spears had her finances controlled by her biological father through a conservatorship, and there was a push to give her control of her life back to her. But if the allegations in this case are true, then Michael Oher has been under a similar arrangement with the Touhy family since 2004, but Mr. Oher didn't know that he was under a conservatorship, he says. And Oher's conservatorship was based on consent, not based on need, which is why there's never actually going to be a free Michael trend, which I will explain in just a minute. The allegation is that Oher was tricked into signing away his control over his financial future when he was but 18 years old and living with the Touhys. The lawsuit alleges that they told him that he was signing adoption papers, but no adoption papers were ever filed. According to the lawsuit, Michael read enough of the documents to see that they didn't have the word adoption anywhere in them. And the Touhys and/or their attorney lied to him and said that when the person to be adopted has already turned 18, an adoption proceeding is called a conservatorship. But that is not so. A conservatorship is actually a business relationship between the two parties, not a familial relationship like an adoption. And there was a lot of business to be done by the Touhys for Michael Oher, or really kind of for the Touhys. Sean Touhy, Oher's dad, was friends with renowned Moneyball author Michael Lewis, and apparently Touhy made short work of pitching the Oher story to Lewis, and Lewis wrote what's actually a really good book. I've read it. In fact, I would recommend it to you if you're in the mood for a good book of fiction, as it appears that the key details in the book are simply not true. Now, the cherry on top, the money from the book did not go to Michael Oher. So when The Blind Side became a best-selling book and then a hit movie, the Touhy family got themselves a nice fat paycheck, while Oher got nothing, according to the lawsuit. The sprinkles on top of that cherry, in 2007, the Touhys either tricked Oher or faked his signature on a contract that signed away his rights to his own name, image, and likeness. Now, you may have heard of these rights because NCAA athletes have recently successfully pushed for the right to make money off of their own name, image, and likenesses, or NILs. In Oher's case, as a 37-year-old man, he still does not own his own NIL rights. But he will soon. The whole case is so weird. If the allegations in the lawsuit are true, then it's terrible that the family took advantage of Oher when he was so young and continued to do it for so long. It would be one thing if they enjoyed the benefits of Oher's financial success along with him, but the lawsuit alleges that they kept the bulk of the profits for themselves, even going so far as to secure a payment of $225,000 and 2.5% of the earnings from the Blind Side movie for themselves, while getting nothing for Oher. Now, by my calculations, that's almost $9 million. And then they negotiated every contract for him, enriching themselves and made money through their foundation, which was based on their supposed altruism and the way that they helped a poor kid who no one else would take advantage of. I'm sorry, I meant to say that no one else would take care of. Whoops. On the other hand, what a strange way to make money. How were the Touhys supposed to know that Michael Lewis was going to write a book about Oher? How were they supposed to know that that book would turn into a major motion picture and that they could parlay that fame into other huge money-making opportunities for years? And why did it take Oher until February of this year to figure out his legal situation? Didn't he have an agent while he was playing in the NFL? Did his agent not look into his legal contracts? The whole story is so sad. It punctures this myth of a happy family successfully raising a child out of a miserable condition, and it turns a heartwarming movie into a horrifying story that raises all kinds of questions about greed and exploitation. And if the allegations are true, then it's all such a cynical plot to make money. And if it's false, if the allegations are not true, then it might just be a different cynical plot to make money. And can I just say, you know this chick is punching the air right now. When this case goes to trial, there's gonna be a lot more known about how the Touhys got themselves into this mess. And they're gonna lose the trial. Like I said, this is not a free Britney situation. When Michael was 18, he willingly gave his right to be the conservators over him to the Touhys. It was consensual. And relationships like this, whether it be guardian ward or conservator ward that are based on consent, they are very fragile because unlike a judge deciding that Michael Oher needed a conservator, all the judge in this case did was decide that Oher had consented to a conservator. Once that consent is withdrawn or revoked or terminated, then there's no lawful basis to continue the arrangement. I read Oher's lawsuit from beginning to end. Nowhere in it does it say Michael Oher hereby withdraws his consent to the conservatorship, at least not in those words. But that is certainly the vibe of the lawsuit. One of the requests for relief is to terminate the conservatorship so the judge, he gets the point. But that's not all that Oher asked for. He asked the court for annual accountings. And for that reason, we should all take a moment of silence for the Touhys. RIP. First of all, Michael has an absolute right to accountings for every single year since the first one became due in February of 2006. Second, the court itself is by statute supposed to receive accountings. Third, we're talking about 18 separate annual accountings. There's simply no way, not on God's green earth and not in hell, that the Touhys are going to be able to file with the court full and complete and honest accountings for all those years. And that right there is reason enough, yet again, to terminate the conservatorship. These accountings, to the extent that they are correct, are going to show exactly how much money the Touhys kept from Oher. And he wants that money and more. According to the lawsuit, the Touhys didn't file an annual report of Michael's physical and mental condition with the court, which they were duty bound to do according to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 34-1-111. They actually might be able to get out of this one. And of course, it doesn't really matter to the lawsuit, which is about dignity and autonomy and money, since the arrangement was based on consent and not based on a fiction of Michael not actually being able to take care of himself. But here's the kicker. When a conservatorship is established, the relationship between the two parties contains a fiduciary duty flowing to the ward from the conservators. A fiduciary duty is the highest and most sacred obligation that a person can have to another person in the eyes of the law in the United States. Doctors are fiduciaries with respect to their patients, lawyers to their clients, priests and pastors to the members of their church. If there's any abuse, any mistreatment of any kind, the party owing the duty is in very hot water, legally speaking. But to be clear, it's not just abuse or just mistreatment. It's also self-dealing. When you owe a fiduciary duty to another person, you cannot yourself benefit or prosper from that position, even if you can do so without technically harming your ward, except as provided by law. So if you do a deal with yourself as a conservator to end up with any of the money that belongs to the ward, to Michael Oher, you're gonna have to disgorge that money with interest and also perhaps with punitive damages. One of the things that's so fascinating about this lawsuit is that many of the key facts are easily verifiable or non-verifiable. Was he adopted? Did he sign for the conservatorship? Where did the money go from the movie, etc.? On the other hand, there's a lot we don't know. Did the Touhys lie about the documents? Were they themselves confused? Did they think in their minds it was the equivalent to an adoption? Did Oher know at the time what was happening, but has since changed his mind? There's really still a lot to untangle. But I have a theory. The movie rights to Michael's story were sold while he was still in college. Back in the day, NIL deals were banned by NCAA rules, which means legally Michael couldn't benefit from the book or the movie until he was totally out of school, out of college. But money was changing hands while he was in college. It would not surprise me one bit to find out that there was a fair and square deal made between the Touhys and Michael and their lawyer as a way to cheat the NCAA rules and get the family headed towards fame and riches. But it's just a theory, and we don't know that yet. The Touhys have about a month to file an answer to this lawsuit, and I will be very fascinated to hear how they explain their side of the story. I'd like you to jump down in the comments and give me your pro se opinion. What do you think's really going on here? Were the Touhys intentionally taking advantage of Michael Oher? What's your theory? Are you invested in this story? Should I do a part 2 of this video after the Touhys respond? There's so many questions. Check out these other great legal breakdowns because I will be back soon, but as you know, I gotta go right now. Bye.